I've been trying to change my program for you since this is the third year I've been here, I think. So I want to go just a little bit different, and we'll start out with the news and variety section. And so some of you may have seen my blog. I got my son to show me how to do this since I didn't want to go out and have a web person do it for me. And so it's pretty easy. I've come up with a blog here, and I'm trying to make this a way to communicate. I finally got out of technology sales. When I quit throwing, I thought I had to get a real job, and after about 18 years I decided I didn't need a real job, so I'm staying in the world of throwing. And this clinic's only once a year, and traveling around is kind of tough. I want to share everything I have and know that people are interested in, and I also want to monetize that somehow. So one way of communicating is with a blog, and what's kind of interesting about this is that it lets me, in the privacy of my own room, forget about what's going on in the outside world and be a little silly sometimes, or less than serious anyway. So I want to have some technical things up here and make it a valuable resource. But one of the first things I want to show you is you can throw video up here, as you probably know, with YouTube really quickly. And this is the dedication to my discus video. I don't know if the audio is going to work with this, but just kind of catch the movement of the throw here. I think it's moving. Yeah, there it goes. So just notice the way Wolfgang moves. This is his silver medal throw in Montreal. On the last throw, he moved from third place to second place, saves the discus, hops back up there, and finishes with his right knee up and his right arm up, and blah, blah, blah. So what makes that so interesting is this one right here. But I was in Australia in October. I'd never met this guy. He was a junior thrower. He's now about 30 years old. He's a strength coach. And so Wolfgang was his idol. He watched Wolfgang for an hour and a half every day of his life when he was throwing. And if you remember ever seeing Wolfgang throw, he did this wind up at the back. And this guy had it down perfect. And so we were out there coaching an athlete he works with, and we just did this. Just out of the blue. With no practice. He said, oh yeah, and then there's this. And I said, oh yeah, I know that. And there you go. So that's the power of the discus throw. And that's why I put the first one up there, our inspiration. So anyway, there's a link on this one. This is not a formal presentation today either. So there's a link on this one to a blog about the facility that is happening in Portland at Concordia University. So this is about where we are now. This is our sun shelter. Protects us from the fierce sun in the summertime between July 20th and 25th. And they had extra engineering put into it, and so the rest of the time it protects us from the rain. What you'll see here is what it's going to look like when it's all done. This is, and these red X's are kind of an explanation of what it is. We've got here the javelin area with a runway, a regular track runway, and right next to it, this dark green is 40 feet by 120 of field turf for javelin training, for example. And why doesn't this go away? There we go. Our hammer cages, we've got 2 cages here with turning slabs and a landing impact area. Shot put area here with 3 permanent circles and room on the sides here for temporary circles, so we can have like 13 or 14 circles for big clinics when you have 30 or 40 friends show up and they all want to throw the shot at the same time. And then I have a kind of a berm around the sides and the back here for the spectators for when Reese and the big boys come to throw. And the discus circle is here. We can throw, we've got a bunch of circles here and one out here and a big, huge field that goes over 200 degrees, so we can practice throwing with all kinds of different wind directions. The good wind comes from the northwest up here. The bad wind comes from the southwest, which is why this structure has a wall here on the south and on the west, but not on the east or the north. And so right here, it gives all the details of what's under the sun shelter. And so we're all excited about that, and we'll have a party there, a training party every day of the year. Just let me know, and you're all welcome. Bring your throwers, and I'm serious about that. Primarily, this is for U.S. throwers. And so as the Concordia coach, I'm not going to go out and actively recruit foreign throwers. If they're interested, I might talk to them, but I'm not going to chase them down. The Throwing Center is something I view as a resource for everybody in the country who wants to throw. And so I want to have camps there and clinics there and competitions there, competitions before, during, and after the Olympic trials for the athletes competing in the trials, and maybe for just young athletes who are going to come watch the trials, things like that. So whatever you can imagine, we'll probably try and do. So there you go, and any of the details of how to get a hold, find those sites are on here. I brought a bunch of the DVD. I can't pick it up. I got a bunch of these available as well. And so that's the news and entertainment session. There you go. That's the whole story. And I took the goofy pictures off of the blog. I had to do that. I put them up, like I said, you know, you're sitting at home in your sweats and you, oh man, this would be really great. And then, oh, this is a public forum, you know. I can't do that and be seen in public again. So what I like to do is, I was actually a high school teacher once, just for a year. I only lasted a year. I didn't get fired or anything, but I was a high school teacher for a year, and I also was training, and I was also a throwing coach during that time. And for some reason during that time, the rules were a little different, and you could train year-round during the school year. And so I was coaching throwers all year and training all year, and it was tiring. As you know, teaching and coaching is emotionally draining, and then you're at empty, and it's time for you to go do your workout. So anyway, one of my favorite things as a teacher was to, pretty soon you'd figure out who the A students were, and you know, they had the drill down and they got it all figured out. And boom. I really liked to mess with them and throw them off track and ask them a question, and they'd give me the A answer, and I'd say, no, that's not what I'm looking for. So I'd like to kind of, you know, do something a little different. Here's what I think is true, and this might be the logical path, but that's not the path I want you to go down. That's the path you've been going down. I want you to use your brain and go around this way, and that's where you're going to get the growth. You know the easy way. Half the kids don't even know the easy way. You've got that wired. I want you to grow. You're going to have to find the hard way into the candy store. So kind of to change your preconceived notion about the throw and force a little different look at it. And I think from my perspective, it's real important to do this, because there's a lot of young throwers who have talent who get off track because, for example, they want to hit the discus or the shot or the javelin. The thing that just kills me is seeing high school guys who I know play football, and they can probably bench at least 350 and maybe more, and they get all crazy and wild and psyched up like they're going to do a deadlift or something, and get in the circle and just blast that thing 51 feet. And they know all the celebration and everything, and it's like, oh, God. Is that so typically American or what? It just makes me no, I don't want to puke. It just makes me sad because they're missing the boat. They probably have talent. So the way you want to throw it, there is no hit to throwing well. To throw the shot or the discus well is more like swinging a golf club. It's more timing and rhythm, and it's very delicate, and it's very subtle. So if I have time, I'll get to more than one of these bullet points. Okay? If I have time. I hung out with Jay Sylvester last week. We did a little clinic for a few kids, and Jay said there are 3 things that are most important when you're throwing the discus. Number 1, how far did it go? Very important. I like to say, don't stand close to it when it hits the ground. Number 2 for Jay is rhythm. And absolutely, that's the execution piece I want to talk about. Rhythm, efficiency, timing. How skillful are you at whatever your movement is? The first part talks about, here's what I think the ideal movement is, and the second part is, how good are you at that? So you can throw far with fairly significant flaws in your technique if you're efficient, if you have good rhythm, and if you have good timing. So there's really two basic points that are the starting point for how you throw the discus. And everything works together. If you do one, you can probably do the other. But what we're trying to do is optimize our leverage, make our arms as long as possible, get the most out of our legs. And so balance is the first issue that most throwers have problem with. And typically it's balance from left to right. So I don't see any magic markers, so I'm not going to write on the whiteboard here, or this one right here. But this would be great, you know, it's right in the middle. In fact, I think I have one in my bag, but it wouldn't work. So if I'm going to throw it in that direction, I'll briefly talk about balance left to right. Balance left to right means that you get your weight on your left foot at the back of the circle, and you go through the middle of the circle, and you throw it like this, and you step a little bit to the right of your left foot when you reverse, if you reverse. Okay, so your center of gravity and your feet are moving in a straight line through the middle of the circle, the longest path. Being off balance, you've seen this, typically the thrower is going to come over here like that and throw like this and fall off to the left. Okay? They have not moved their weight over onto the left foot before they start going that way. So this is balance from left to right or right to left. You've got to get your weight onto your left foot before you go this way. And that's hard to do when you're a young thrower, because young throwers typically are going to go too fast at the start with their upper body. So what's going to happen is I'm going to have video clips of, here's the common mistake. Here's going too fast, here's what it does for you. The problem is keeping each one of these bullet points so short, because each one is connected to the other, and you can't start with just balance left to right and stop at just that one point. You got to have your throwers slow down here so they can get their weight on their left foot before they go in that direction, before they unseat to the front of the circle, rather than sit back here like this and fall off to the left, land heavy, kill the rotation, end up throwing like that over here. So what it all comes down to is to get on balance, and I have some lovely pictures and video I can show you here in a little bit. To get on balance, the move that you need to be aware of for your throwers is not to start like this with all your weight on the left foot. The move is not to shift your hips to the left. The move is to unwind from the wind up and bring your left shoulder and your head over your left foot, just like that, right here. The top of the thigh, the trunk, and the arm are going to make this kind of skewed rhomboid or something like that. This is what you've got to find. This isn't it. This is it. right here. This is balance. So what that's going to do is when you get to this balance point, your right foot's going to be able to come off the ground because all the weight's on the left. If you get to this point and your right foot's still on the ground and you turn past 9 o'clock, like this, the right foot's still on the ground, you've got weight back here. You have not moved your upper body over here. That's how you get on balance. Simple little thing. Fortunately, the audio is really low, so you can't hear it. Here's the picture we're looking for with the balance. What he's saying, what the voice is saying, is everything's happening on that half, the right half of the circle, the throwing arm side. So one thing that makes it easy to get on balance is a decent wind up under control where your right foot's flat on the ground. Slow down, he says. I'll translate for you. He's kind of got a whiny voice. So the position we're looking for balance, we just passed through it. Why didn't they stop the film there? Right there. Again. Okay, here's what happens. Boom. Right there. See, the right foot's off the ground and the left shoulder's over the left foot. Here's a different throw without a reverse. Same thing, left shoulder over. Same thing. Right there are those lines. That's what we're looking for balance. This is LJ. So what's really important is he doesn't shift his weight into the throw direction toward the camera until he gets his left shoulder over here and his left foot and his left arm are kind of pointing at 9 o'clock if 12 o'clock is straight back. It's so hard to do. It's so hard to not start to sit this way or to dive with the left shoulder until that point. It's vital. It's necessary. And you know what? It's not done very often, unfortunately. So we're going to jump all around here, but how do I make this guy bigger? That? Okay. This is Franka Dietsch, the reigning world champion. Tell me if you recognize that position. No? Maybe the light will go on with that position. Okay? Yes. Got it. Okay. And then what all of this comes down to, jumping to the bottom line, the bottom line is get on balance at the back of the circle, and then whatever you do between there and the front doesn't matter, but just get in a good power position so you can deliver the discus from the bottom up. Now what's important about delivering from the bottom up is that it's facilitated by the heel of the right foot off the ground for a great rotation of the foot and a bent right leg. And also it's very convenient that, I don't know if this is a throwback from the East German days, but they have painted stripes on the side of their tights so you can see it better in the film. But there's a nice bend in the right leg there. And here we just rotate the leg and therefore the hip around into the throw ahead of the arm. Look at the right foot. Looks like a javelin thrower. That's what makes rotation so important to throwing the discus. But if we go back, what I really came to this video clip for was to show you that position right there. And that's how it works. And what's so hard for young throwers, for intermediate throwers, is to go from the wind-up position around to that position slowly and learn how to do that under control. That's so difficult. Everybody's racing to throw. Your intuition is, I want to go fast with this discus. I got to go fast here, so if I start faster, I'll go faster at the end. Okay, it's a paradox. That's not what happens. You have to go slower. Here's 5 things to write down. These are my observations and my thoughts. They're backed up by Dr. Bing Yu. That's Y-U. And so his email is BYU, except he's at UNC. So he's a biomechanicist. He works with the elite throwers. Number 1, you have to go slow. You need a slow unwind at the back. Number 2, you need a long, wide right leg at the back of the circle. Number 3, you need to get the hips and shoulders separated in the middle. In other words, the lower body has to catch up to and get ahead of the upper body. Number 4, you need to have a smooth, efficient, and timely rotation of the right foot, knee, and hip into the throw, and preferably ahead of the hip, preferably ahead of the shoulder, rather than the typical style of coming around and having the hip drag the foot. Have the foot and the knee come ahead of the hip. And number 5, you need a good solid block and some lift out of the left. You may not have to jump and reverse, but you've got to have a good block. Those are the 5 keys to long throws by international throwers as measured by the computers and calculators. And I concur 100%. Something that is very helpful as a clue, as a cue, as a guide for the thrower, and something for the coach to watch for, is the left foot during the unwind. And I say the inside of the left foot, I mean, you want to pivot on the inside of the ball of the left foot or the inside of the big toe, right in this area. If you ever, during this, oh, they've got circles around it. Great. That's nice. You watch Jay unwind, and even around to here. Now, this I think was 1968, maybe 1970. And I think these are race walking shoes, so they're a completely flat sole. But at any rate, you can see under his shoe, you can see the sole of his shoe, and he's all the way back to unwound to this far. And here he's getting over here. He's almost, it's a bad picture, I mangled it. You can still see under his foot, and the right foot's just about to come off the ground. That's why it is so important to stay on the inside, because if you're on the inside of the foot, to really be on the inside of the foot, you kind of have to, I need a higher table to stand on, but you kind of have to knock your knee in a little bit, like this. And that puts you on the inside of the left foot. And so if your knee's knocked in, it means to stay on the inside, you're going to have your knee this way a little bit, which means your hips are going to have to come this way a little bit. And if you stay on the inside till 9 o'clock, your knee's going to come over here a little more, and your hips will come over here, and your whole body will be over here. It'll be easier. You'll get on balance if you stay on the inside of the ball of the foot till 9 o'clock. Now, I could be back like this and not be on balance. This is maybe a little tricky for you to pick up in 3 minutes of me talking fast with these pictures, but it feels very comfortable to do. If you want to stand back here, knock your knee in so you can get on the inside. Yeah, knock that and left, knock your knee in, more. No, not out, yeah, there. Okay. Don't go on the outside. Gotcha. Knock your knees in, and you can be, I like to say, okay, be like this. Do you ever ski, do a snow plow? Or I guess that goes inside like this. Ski on the inside edge of your skis. Not too many discus shot putters do that these days. I've only skied twice. But so on the inside of the ball of your foot, you can turn pretty easily like this. Now this is not how I'd be if I'm throwing the discus. I don't want my hips and my weight right on top of the foot. But the point is, this will facilitate the rotation of the left foot. You have a lot of beginners who can't even turn their feet at the back of the circle. If you can get them to knock their knees in and practice this pivot and hold their center of gravity over the left foot, and this is a pretty grippy surface, and these are running shoes, as you can tell, high friction coefficient here, and I'm still able to do that, and it doesn't bother my knees. I wouldn't want to do it all night, but it's pretty mechanically efficient way to turn. And it also is going to get you in a position to be on balance so that your left shoulder's out here and you've got these angles that you can see. Again, these are the angles that you can see. And in fact, this sequence of photos is on that blog page that I showed you earlier. Boy, that's too many words. I like pictures better. But there's another issue of balance from the back of the circle to the front. So basically what I'm saying is, if this is the circle looking at it from the top, and here's the start, and here's your right foot and here's your left, you have to get your weight over the left foot, and when you pick up the right foot, you don't want to fall too far this way. You have to be balanced between the back of the circle and the middle of the circle. And I have some lovely pictures to show you in a minute for all of that, but basically the balance from back to front is why you have all of the top male throwers in the world who are 6'6" to 6'8", doing this and putting their right foot dead center in the middle of the circle and coming down and never fouling at the front of the circle because they're on balance back to front. Because when they drop down at the back of the circle, they have their left thigh close to vertical and their hip is here and their shoulder is about here and their right leg is outside the circle and they're in sort of an upright, relatively upright body posture like this rather than here with the hips back and the upper body forward, over-exaggerated, but then it becomes what I get down to the practical with beginning throwers. This is not what we want. We don't want to be here like, and they wouldn't remember it. Some of you would. Back with the old cars in the 30s and 40s, they had the hood ornament, and there was, okay? Or on the prow of a wooden sailing ship long ago. You don't want to be a hood ornament. You don't want to be like this with your hips back and your head forward. Because whatever you do at the back of the circle, you must repeat at the front of the circle. If you're off balance here, you will be off balance here. You cannot correct. Your athleticism will allow you to be efficient or somewhat efficient at it, but you cannot get back on balance once you pick up your right foot off balance. And so if you lead out of the back with your head and shoulders, you will end up landing like this and throwing with your head and shoulders at the front. And so if you're not on balance back to front, if you fall too far, you're going to eat the circle and have an upper body throw. So the opposite of the hood ornament, what we want, if we're like this, we want to be up here like more like this. And so I call this the puppet position, marionette. Some of you might know what a marionette is. It's kind of like hood ornaments, the Iron Curtain, Mork and Mindy. Not too many college throwers these days know what those things are. So as I'm coming around at the back, I'm going to try and get to this puppet position here rather than hood ornament like that. I don't want to dive to the hood ornament because if I do that, what else is bad is this leg is going to be back here and the knees are going to come through together. If I'm like this, you can see I've got a beach ball between my knees and I'm going to keep it there as I come forward. That's a longer, wider lever to create more power. So how does this get to be practical when you're dealing with somebody who's never thrown before, or it's a high school sophomore who's thrown 115 feet? It comes back to controlling the speed at which the head and the left shoulder unwind. Again, typically it's too fast. We have to establish the correct path, bringing it over here, bringing the shoulder over here, over the foot, with the correct speed so that we can drop down at that point. So we'll run through the entire sequence. What I'm trying to get at here is, first of all, getting shoulders on balance, getting them over to the left. Secondly, waiting until 9 o'clock to come down and unseat with the left side of my thigh to the middle of the circle. That's the unseat. It's not sitting backwards with your butt like a hammer thrower. It's waiting until you're at 9 o'clock. So there's 9 o'clock. Now the left knee is going to break down and the hip should get lower as we turn. So that's kind of how I demonstrate for my throwers what we're trying to do here. There's the balance and the right foot comes off and we just drop down and turn around. A lot of kids will have trouble. They'll keep their hip over their left foot and they'll be like this, and we don't want the hips back. We want the hips out here leading. This is the engine. We want to give the engine a chance to get ahead of, well, actually it's the ski boat. It's not the engine. Okay, so it's a boat thing, it's not a train thing. I'm not messing with you. This is for real. It's a ski boat, and we want the ski boat to get ahead of the skier out here, the discus, and this is the rope. And we want the rope to be tight. We don't want to have slack in the rope, or the rope should be taut, whichever you prefer. And so what we have to do is, when we get to here, we have to learn to unseat at this time in this direction with the left hip. And so to get them to do that, I'll have them come to 9 o'clock and sit down, and they catch themselves with the right foot by dropping it back. That's what I'm doing here. So we'll do that a few times, and then we'll bring the leg around. I can't turn well on this, but I can do some of these drills. So that's kind of the progression I'm going through. The next thing is, if you want to keep moving around, is instead of having the foot back, you can bring the foot up and put the foot on the rim. I think I start one of these with my right heel on the rim, the left foot turned to 9 o'clock, come down and sit out, and here's your puppet position, and then go to the middle. See, there it goes all the way around and into the throw. And again, I'm doing all this in running shoes. It doesn't require throwing shoes if you can stay on the inside of the foot at least until 9 o'clock. Here's a lovely view of the inside of the left foot in action. There's the wind-up. Notice that at the full wind-up, he was still on the inside of his left foot. I don't let my beginning throwers turn their foot around so far. I don't let them turn their foot this way because usually they'll go flat, and then it's how are we going to get it around and be in position. I make them keep it open and let the knee wind up a little bit, so now for sure they're on the inside of the ball of the left foot, and then just come around like that. When you get to be, you know, a world record holder, an Olympic thrower, then you can wind up a little farther, because watch his left foot as he unwinds. Definitely get a sense that he's on the inside of that foot Wherever the camera is, the bottom of his shoe is almost on the same plane as the camera is looking down at his foot. In fact, he even kind of walks away from the rim. First he's on his toe, then he's on the ball of the foot. He walks it away, sort of. Goes from the inside of the big toe, shifts to the inside of the ball of the foot. He's still on the inside, however. Bringing the upper body around, and now he's getting on balance. The foot's going to go to flat, and the right foot comes up. Left foot comes down flat for just a second, but then comes back up on the ball of the foot flat. And the rotation of the left foot here is maybe to the direction of the throw at 6 or maybe to 7 o'clock. Jay would say it should be 7 or 8 o'clock because he likes to drive, but I like a little more rotation. So anyway, this is a real nice view. This is something that your more thoughtful throwers should look at, this left foot action. So another clip, you don't have to squat 1034 at Westside or even 700 in San Jose to be able to make these positions. A little playful poke there at myself as well as Louis. Here's a 14-year-old throwing about 105 feet, showing the position you want to have for balance from the back to the front. A little overactive with the left arm, but the knees are wide here, and there's the left thigh vertical, and the left shoulder is maybe a little bit forward of the hip, but not too much. So she'll come down, and by the way, you don't really need an 8-foot circle unless you're 6'4" or greater, or you have bad technique. So back to our regularly scheduled program. Oh, that's the one we need. Another video. Okay, Lars Riedel in Atlanta, throwing 228 feet or something, 15 feet off the ground. The point we're making here is the balance from back to front. His left leg, it's not even, the left thigh is not even vertical. His hip is back a bit. But he's 6'7". He still gets the hip out, but the thigh isn't even vertical. And the right leg is way outside the back of the circle. And notice where it comes down in the dead center of the discus circle. And there's the left foot down. And a lovely unwind with the right leg and hip into the throw. And again, the bottom line is the Germans, particularly the East Germans, have always been extremely successful being highly efficient with very simple movements but very correct movements at the finish. When does the left foot come down? Oh, you want to get down as soon as you can. Well, check this out. When does his left foot come down? Maybe right there. His right foot and knee are at 9 o'clock and leading the turn into the throw just as he puts his foot down. I would not say that was an upper body throw. If you watch that throw, well, I mean, it's 228 with no wind, 15 feet off the ground. This is a sling. He's unwinding from the bottom up. Just keep it simple, get in a good position, and unwind from the bottom up. Okay, this is point number 2. the orbit of the discus. The discus has an orbit very similar to the hammer throw. Everybody's seen the hammer throw. The ball's down here, it's up here, and it's down here, and you throw it with some turns in between. So, it's tough for me to do that here. So it's the same thing with the discus, the exact same thing with the discus. And in fact, there's a whole long 5-day discussion of all the reasons why you want to do this, but basically here's what you have to do. As you come out of the back of the circle, you want the discus to come up to head height in the direction of the throw, and then as it comes back the opposite side of the axis, it'll be down, and then you make the throw and it comes back up in a plane like that. Very important that you have that plane. The typical beginner mistake is carry the discus down here, and if you want to get it up in the air, if you're athletic enough to think that you need to or feel that you need to, you'll drop it down even lower and then jump up and lift it. And so that brings us to leverage. If this were my throwing arm, right now at this position I can touch the screen. If I drop this down, you can see I've just lost a couple of inches of radius. If I get down here, I've lost a whole lot of radius. Short levers are not as powerful, plus they go faster. You drop it down, you're going to shorten the radius, and the skier is going to catch up to the boat. You're going to get slack in the rope, and then finally when the boat does get ahead right about here, the skier is going to weigh about 15 or 20 pounds. On the other hand, if I raise my hand, I've still lost radius. So maybe this is the best place for it, which is 90 degrees to the trunk. So my conclusion is, let's keep the discus at 90 degrees to the trunk, or close to it, all the way through the throw, which will put it right here, arms up right here, and then as we step forward, how do I get it up there? I can't do this, I've got to keep it locked in, so I have to take it through a path like this, which means I've got to tip my body back. But that's okay, because does this look familiar? This is your power position. That's where you want to be. Who invented this? It's amazing how all these things work together like that. So whatever we do back here, we want to do up here. To make the throw up here, we want to go hips first into the throw. So back here, we need to go hips first. Hips first. Oh, that puts the discus right up there because I've tipped my body back to let the hips go first. Put me in the power position and throw. This is easy to look for. Easy to look for. You look at the throw from the side. Is the discus above the shoulder? Is it head height? Somewhere in here? Yes or no? Is it out beyond the foot right here, or is it down here close to the foot if you draw vertical lines? Yes or no? Keep it here at 90. If your body is straight up and down and your orbit is flat, you're going to throw line drives. Easy thing for coaches to look for. Easy thing for kids to look for if they do this in front of a mirror. They can do this balance thing in front of a mirror, facing this way. Am I here? You can put the picture up on the mirror. They can check their image out next to the picture. They can do it here. Am I like this? Or am I off here? Or back here? Or whatever. And you can do the orbit thing in front of the mirror. Great immediate feedback for throwers of all levels of development. So this is a real important point right here. Sometimes it's much easier to get the result you want with an athlete if you focus on the end result. What do you want? I want the discus to go up in the air, and I want it to go flying out there with the right edge low and come flat and then turn over. Okay, there's only one way you can make that happen, and that's if you take the discus through the proper orbit and you're on balance and you release out here like this, hips first. If you're doing this, you're never going to get that end result. So forget all the details, forget everything I told you. Try and make that happen. Just make it fly right. and there you go. Sometimes that works. Worked great for me in the hammer. I had a boy who was he threw 190 with the 12 and 145 with the 16 in high school, and he wanted to really, you could see his eyes like this on the first turn. And so after a couple of weeks of here's what you need to do and this and here's why, I just said, look, Greg, throw the ball higher up there, throw it in the middle. Don't throw line drives off to the left. Throw it higher, throw it down the middle. I'll be back next week. How you doing? Oh, I'm doing good, I'm doing good. Throw it higher. Oh, that was good, that was higher. And guess what? He can see if it's higher, he can see if it's down the middle, and he knows if he's doing this. Well, sometimes he does, most of the time not, but he knows if he does this, it won't go the way it's supposed to. If he doesn't do that, if he does the right things, it'll go where it's supposed to. And that was the coaching lesson for October, November, December, January, and February, for 5 months. Throw it higher, throw it down the middle. Nope, nope. Little bit better. Nope, 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 nope. Okay. See, I mean, he's over here doing this, Greg, I have better things to do. You go hit your head against the wall, but make it go higher and down the middle. So finally he started to get that, and so he threw 185 as a freshman with a 16. He was 6 feet off his 12-pound best the year before. He still has issues with this, but it's much, much better. He's got another coach who hammers at him with a much more delicate instrument than I did. I used a broad brush or a sledgehammer kind of approach. So let's see, I can find some orbit. How about that? Perfect timing. Oh, here's the 90-degree discovery. Never, never, never wear a watch when you throw the discus. You really look dorky. Of course, there's a high point. And this will vary from thrower to thrower. Wolfgang had a, well, that was pretty quick. Wolfgang had a very extreme layback position compared to most people. He was the line from his left foot to his head was pretty steep, and therefore the discus was way up here. But you got to have a high point and a low point, and they have to be lined up with the direction of the throw pretty much. The typical error is I'm going to dive with my left shoulder and head. The discus is going to come up high over here about 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and then it's going to catch up, and it'll be low over here about 2 o'clock, and so I'm going to want to throw it high over here at 8 o'clock. When 6 o'clock is the sector, I'll throw it out of bounds. The orbit is skewed. The high point's coming too early because we're doing this at the back rather than this at the back, like that. So that blue line kind of shows a little bit of an orbit. Here's Stephanie Brown Trafton in 2004 with a PR of 202 or 3 on her first throw, making the Olympic team. Down, up, down, out. These are not things that you have to be monsters or highly skilled or developed throwers to do, as you can see by the 14-year-old. Stephanie has a tendency right here to be a little bit too far forward in this position with her upper body, and therefore she'll eat a little bit much of the circle. Take too big of a step. Discus is kind of getting up there, but she recovers with that right hip nicely, catches up to the skier, and still slings her out there. Execution. I should probably have this on full screen, but this is not a formal presentation, so you're going to have to do with all the busyness on the site. Again, you get to a certain level of correctness with your positions, and there's some variations there, but the thing that really matters and what you want to focus on the last month of the season before the conference and the state meet and all that is how efficient are you at performing this. And that's where it becomes really important to focus on the end result rather than specific details. Focus on the rhythm. What did we do today to think about rhythm? Down, up, down, out. That's a helpful thing. And there's a drill that goes with this. When I say down, up, down, out, I mean the path of the center of gravity. At the back of the circle, you saw me do this drill where I did this. There's another one where I move the foot up and put the heel of the foot on the rim and turn my left foot to 90 degrees, and I want to be going that way, so I'm kind of cheating. I much prefer this to the South African. South African doesn't give you any rotation with the leg, and that's really important. If you start like this, you can get some rotation going on, or even start like this, but this doesn't do it. This is good for feeling the orbit of the discus. It also helps you with a little bit of a down-up rhythm, but better still is something like this where you limit the wind-up, and you're going to come here and come down on the left, turn, and then come up in the middle and turn. So you get this down-up rhythm, down, up, down, out. That's what we did today. That helps with, you do that, it also gives the thrower a chance to use their right leg to sweep and accelerate, shorten and accelerate, to make that rotation and that jumping action happen. First you have to come down, though. Tripped me. Have to come down at the back. A lot of beginning throwers, their tendency is come up and then fall down. That's just a hard one. You got to start right here. Come down. Come down. So I'm winding up and unwinding. My left heel is up. I'm on the inside of the foot. The left foot comes down. The right heel comes up. Just like that. I need a really high table up here so my feet are above your head so you can see my feet, because that's the important part. What are my feet doing? Stay on the inside of the ball of your foot when you do that. Knock the knee in. Don't be flat-footed, or don't be on the flat part of the ball of your left foot. Stay on the inside. Down, come down, come down, come down and turn and go here. Down, up, down, around, and out. That helps with your rhythm. For more advanced throwers, we saw the picture of Deech with the camera from behind, and we also saw Riedel from the side and the right foot and knee turning. This is not something you can consciously will to happen in a full throw when you're coming around. It will happen as a result of not going head first, but going hips first, and also letting the right leg sweep wide and ahead and be the ski boat dragging the skier with a relaxed rope back here. And that will turn that. For more advanced throwers, turn the right knee and foot into the throw ahead of the shoulders. Throw it like that. That's how you're going to sling it. Everybody who's throwing with a boom explosion, they're missing getting their hips around. And I think they're missing slinging the discus. The discus is a slinging event. It's a whipping event. It's not an exploding event. So now it's pretty grainy, but what we're really concerned about, watch the hip action here go down and up. At 9 o'clock, they'll go down, up, down, around, and out. See that? Watch the hips. Down, up, down, out. That rhythm was huge. And to move smoothly and rhythmically was kind of the difference between how I threw then when I was throwing, that was a world record throw, versus a year prior when I did not have that smooth flowing down, up, down, around, and out action going on. Let's see, what else can we see here? Trying to get on balance here. Kind of, you can see those angles with the left arm just a little bit. Upper body, the left thigh. Coming down. That's when you come down. The only drawback is, well, on this throw, the major weakness is the discus is too low. If I'd had the discus up over that bar in the cage, it would have been at least, I don't know, 5, 7 feet farther. Easily. It would have flown better. I was throwing hand grenades on this day, and there was a good wind, and they still were flying like hand grenades. If I'd been able to fly the discus, it would have been, 2-3 meters difference. I'll wrap up, and then you got 10 seconds for questions. Delivery keys. I found this. I did think about this beforehand. I just didn't know how I'd slice it up. I kind of had to wait to see how mischievous I felt when I got here. This is so important to get this to happen, and it will happen because what you do back here. Hips first, wide right leg. This is not going to be how you want to throw the discus. You don't want to be having the hips drag in the right foot. I could not get my right shoe to wear out anywhere other but on the inside of the big toe. And that was wrong. That meant that I was not getting a rotation all the way around with my right knee, my right leg. You want to get that around, all the way around. Everybody wants to hit the discus. What was the title of my presentation? There is no hit. There is no hit. It's a whip. It's a sling. Yeah, you can throw far with a hit. You can have PRs that have nice rhythmical whoop like that. But the real throws are a whip. You watch the Germans in particular. Dietz, you watch Riedel. Jürgen Scholz is my all-time favorite for whipping the discus. I'd almost say, and this is an absolute compliment, he had an arm carriage and a separation here with the arm and a whip like a woman. He threw like a woman. I mean, you don't carry the discus back that far. No, you do. He did. And he's the world record holder. So you got to sling the discus. Oh, I'm jumping to the end already. Don't hit it with the left side. I started out thinking I wanted to hit the discus at the back with my right leg here and then jump out as hard as I could. I had a really bad role model, Brian Oldfield, in more ways than one. Anyway, but just that concept of driving out as hard as you could, and to stop myself, I'd jump up and block with the left leg. Well, that was great for linear, but it completely neglected the rotational, and this is a rotational component that you got to have. It's why the DVD has that yin and yang on it. I told Al that it was because it was Al and me, but it's rotational and linear for the discus that's the yin and yang that you have to find the balance for. Don't hit it with the right side, that's the crude, simple way. Don't hit it with the left side, that's the more advanced way of doing it wrong. Just try and sling it, just try and whip it. Try and imitate the feeling of a perfect throw, of relaxed, effortless movement. Try and imitate that. Don't try and go out and see how good you feel now that you can bench press whatever, your new PR. That's what's so important. That's kind of the key concept that is missing. And by the way, if you whip the discus, you will fly the discus properly. I'll bet. If you have a nice orbit and you whip it, you're probably going hips first, and it'll fly properly. Our top 3 American women throwers in international competition for the last 3, 4, 5 years, Aretha and Susie and Becky and and Chris and maybe Becky as well. They have, by and large, according to Dr. Yu, they have the same velocity at release as the medalists at the World Championships and the Olympic Games. The same release velocity. So why is it not going, why are they 10 to 15 feet shorter in the big competitions? The medals are at 220 and we're throwing 2.5 to 2.10 at best. Why is that? Our discs are not flying. We're losing ground because of the aerodynamics. It's not just about firing a cannonball. It's not just a boring, simple shot put where you need speed at release and the right trajectory. You got to have it flying just right. Come out with the right attitude and the right angle, and that's what that gives you the extra distance. So if we were throwing on the moon where there's no air, it would be a tie. All of the U.S. women and international women. But because there's air and the discus is an airfoil, and because they know how to take advantage of that, because they're throwing more hips first, they're on balance and they have a long arm out here to the right, and because they're slinging it rather than hitting it, the discus flies properly. They get more rotation on it. It comes out here instead of here. And it flies. It's in a better position. Everything, all that stuff leads to the proper way to release it to make it fly. So that's why you don't want to hit it. That's why you don't want to hit it. That's why you want to whip it. Whip it good. Not too many people know where that's from either. All right. The one of mine? That was San Jose State University. Yeah. Also the site of Al Feuerbach's world record. And that was the third of, that throw of mine that you saw was the third of three. I opened the meet with 3 consecutive PRs. So that was, to me, that was like the epitome. Okay, yeah, nice, they're world records, but they're 3 PRs in a row. I mean, you throw a PR and it's, and you fall apart. But you throw a PR. I went into there with my first throw. Okay, I'll just go nice. I had great warm-ups. I want to maintain that. Nice and easy on the first throw. I did. PR. Okay, I got that grooved. I feel confident enough. I think I'll turn the volume up just a little bit. And I did, and it went another foot or so farther. Okay, I was a little bit off, but hey, I didn't fall apart. Okay, this time I really, really got to get on balance. So I tried to get way over here. I didn't know where, but somewhere at the time. I'm searching for the pot of gold. I always knew the longer I'd stay back here, the more power I'd create. That meant I was on balance better. I never was on balance good at that time. And so I found a little bit better balance, and everything seemed to take longer because all the levers were this much longer, but in my mind the time difference was huge, and at the same time it seemed like all of a sudden time slowed down and every second was 20 seconds. And my left knee and foot and legs started to sink into this wet cement, and I started to panic because I didn't think I could ever sprint to the middle as I sunk into this wet cement. And so finally my right leg came around like that, and then I got here, and well, maybe this isn't so bad. It still feels way too slow though, and there you go. That's kind of the sensations that I think are very typical when you get a perfect throw for whatever your technique level is, and it's usually a PR. That's the PR feeling that you get. It takes a long time to happen. And so I even had one in 1975. Boy, this is taking a long time to come around. Maybe I ought to hit it. No, I recognize this feeling. It's effortless. It's easy. I'll just let it ride around. It's probably going to be a good throw. And it was a PR. Amazing when you're used to going too fast all the time. When you slow down just a little bit, it seems like you're huge. The slowing down is huge. And of course, the leverage and everything else is better, so you get a PR. That's the way it works. So you know, for the younger throwers, don't go out there and try and feel how good your bench press is. Go out there and try and whip it. So yeah, it was San Jose State, to answer your question. 1976,